Hey everybody, John Skiba here, and in this video we're going to talk about what happens to your Bitcoin if you have to file for bankruptcy. We're also going to talk about some other unusual assets and what you can expect to happen if you find yourself needing to go through the bankruptcy process. But if this is your first time here to my YouTube channel, go ahead, click subscribe, check on that little bell. That way you'll be notified each and every week when I put out new videos that'll help you deal with your serious debt problem. All right, let's talk about Bitcoin and bankruptcy. And I can tell you where this is coming from. It's over the weekend I watched a documentary on Bitcoin, and I found it to be really interesting, just the whole process. And as someone who deals in debt collection and debt and helping people to get out of that, my mind started going to things like, I wonder if you can garnish Bitcoin. You know, is this a way that people could put their money in there and creditors wouldn't be able to garnish it? Are they going to be able to go after it? I also thought in a bankruptcy context, what happens if you have Bitcoin? Now, to understand what will happen, you need to understand if you have to file bankruptcy. Doesn't matter if you're filing Chapter 7, if you're filing Chapter 13, you have to disclose all of your assets. If you're availing yourself to the court, essentially saying, look, I am going to go through this bankruptcy process, I'm hoping to get rid of all this debt, all the credit cards, the medical bills, all that's going to go away. Part of the deal with this is you have to voluntarily disclose anything. It is not a situation where you can hide assets or not disclose them. If you hide an asset or if you fail to disclose an asset intentionally in your bankruptcy, it's a crime, it's a felony. And if you don't believe that they'll prosecute it, just go look at all of the various reality TV show people that seem to get themselves in trouble when it comes to filing for bankruptcy and not disclosing assets. They do prosecute it. It is a crime. You can go to prison for it. But the thing is, you don't have to. As long as you voluntarily disclose your assets, then you'll be fine as you go through this process. The question is, if you had an asset that's unusual, like Bitcoin, would you actually lose it? And the question is, likely, at least in Arizona where I practice law, yes, you would lose it. There's some debate over whether Bitcoin or other cryptocurrency is a commodity or whether it is a currency. It doesn't matter if you're in Arizona. If you have a bunch of it, you're going to lose it. There is no exemption that protects it. When you go into a bankruptcy, particularly a Chapter 7 bankruptcy, how this works is you're going to get rid of that debt, but if you have any assets that are not protected by one of the exemption laws in your state, then a bankruptcy trustee can come in, take that asset, sell it, and give the money to your creditors. And so, for instance, here in Arizona where I practice, there is no exemption that would cover something like Bitcoin. We do have an exemption that covers money in a bank account, but that's limited to $300 or $600 for couples. And this only applies to the single day that you file your bankruptcy case. But you can't have a lot of cash on hand and want to file for bankruptcy, at least in the state of Arizona. Now, there are many states out there that have what are called wildcard exemptions, which is essentially an exemption you can apply to something that doesn't quite fit into the normal categories. Bitcoin would fall into this. I've seen in other states, people use it for vehicles, they use it for timeshares, they use it for assets that don't fall in your typical clothing, household items, cars, homes, those kind of things. So in Arizona, unfortunately, there is no wildcard exemption. So if you have a bunch of cryptocurrency and you need to file for bankruptcy, if you file it with all that, still owning all that cryptocurrency, you're going to lose it. The court will go after it, they'll liquidate it, and require you to turn those funds over to your creditors. So that's why it's so important. So many people think that filing Chapter 7 bankruptcy is just about filling out some forms, you turn them in, and all your debt goes away. There are a lot of forms. However, the information you put in those and the way that the court and the bankruptcy trustee react to what's in there is so important. One, you have to disclose everything completely. Even if you think that this cryptocurrency is, it's off the regular beaten path of assets, you still got to disclose it. And two, if there's an asset that's not protected by one of the exemption laws, you're likely going to lose it in the Chapter 7 process. So I hope that helps as you're kind of contemplating if you need to file for bankruptcy. If you have an unusual asset or something where you're wondering, am I going to lose this or am I not? You ought to talk to a bankruptcy attorney. Bankruptcy attorneys like myself, I do free bankruptcy consultations where I can go over your situation and at least give you some advice whether bankruptcy is a good option. And surprisingly to some people, I do tell many people bankruptcy is not a good option. I had a consultation earlier this week. A lady called in. She had more than $150,000 of equity in her home. In Arizona, the homestead exemption is $150,000 of protected equity. And because of that, I told her bankruptcy is not a good option for your situation. There may be other options like debt settlement, or if they're being sued, contesting the lawsuit. But sometimes bankruptcy isn't the best option. So I hope that helps today. We'll catch you next time.